Okay, there we go. 1 second. I need to get the Pega up. Forgot to log in. Apologies on that. Starting off messed up. Apologies. Let me go ahead and kind of take care of this real quick. Okay, we are good there. Good there. Fantastic start of the session, right? Okay. Looks like we are good to go. Let me get the right window up, seeing it's not. I show that. There we go. Okay. So let's get started on this. Welcome everybody to the 2 p.m. PST Twitch stream. I'm your host, Strange Bro Jim, and today we are going to be getting back into some more Pega Academy. After that, we're going to be doing some more video uploads and maybe a little bit of editing. I might try to get some shorts up as well during that time. We'll see. I need to. I forgot to upload some videos after the stream ended last night, so that's just how my brain works. Sometimes I just don't do what I need to do sometimes, and it gets me in trouble. And then after that, we're gonna get back into World of Warships. I've been away from World of Warships in a while, so everybody that's on the clan is probably wondering, where the heck have you been? Um, but let me get back into that as well. Um, so um, just to um, just to cover what this is all about. I am currently, while I'm unemployed, I need to try to strengthen up my skills, right? Because nothing, the any kind of company is going to be like looking at you and going, well, what have you been doing, you know, while you haven't been employed? And if you say, well, I've been playing games and watching YouTube, that's probably not going to go very well during the interview. Let's face it, right? So, um, the one of the things that has always kind of weighed down on my mind is the fact that, you know, at the last job, I wasn't able to get the certification that I needed to, be, viable, I guess. Even though I was able to actually do the work, certification shows that, hey, you can, you know, you have put in the work to do the work. Even though I already showed the fact that I did work. But it doesn't matter. They look at the certification. If you got the certification, then obviously that's another foot forward, right? Um, so we need to work on that. We need to get that certification. So that's what this video series is kind of about. One, it helps me push my way forward, continue moving forward to get to that certification goal, get it, and then obviously, that looks better on the resume, right? Um, Second thing is that it's kind of meant for you, the viewers, to, um, have a little bit more um, in terms of you know, uh, I might be able to help answer some of your questions. Now, I'm going to be going over the academy, so basically what I'm going to be, kind of talking about is already there. But maybe some little additional insights might be helpful as well. So we'll see. Um, I noticed that my chat window wasn't up. Okay. Um, I gotta keep an eye on chat, so if you guys are speaking up, then I can respond, right? So, um, where does this take us? So, um, first thing that I want to mention is the fact that I am not an authorized training partner. Don't consider me as such. Okay, I'm working on my certification, much like anybody new coming in is working towards. Okay, um, so bear that in mind. Okay. Um, second, um, second point is that this is not endorsed by Pega at all. Okay, I, I'm not being endorsed by Pega. I haven't gotten like, I'd never approached them saying, hey, I'm going to do a streaming on this. Would you support me? I never did that. I mean, if they randomly contact me and say, hey, we like what you're doing, keep it up, great, awesome. But I don't really expect them to do that. Um, but I'm not necessarily um, going to be kind of looking for that either. So if they do, great. If they don't, I mean, it's okay. I'm still going to be doing this series anyway. So um, you know, I know that they've been thankful for some of the input that I've given to them. They've corrected some of the issues that I saw over the time when I saw issues at hand. But obviously, there was a lot of questions that I was like, "What the heck are they talking about?" And I don't know what is going on. Um, and so um, the um, it'd be great if anybody's watching this video series and you feel that, I asked a question that I never really got an answer either by, myself trying to figure out what the heck Pego is talking about, or maybe it's just an open-ended question. Feel free to go to the comments, you know, and write down that information. If you're a trainer, or if you're Pega expert. If you work for Pega itself and you know the answer, please feel free to put it in the comment section. Let me know um, what I might be missing on it because um, one, it helps me out because it provides the answer that I'm looking for, and two, um, it will help out anyone else in the future that might be looking to have those questions answered themselves. Okay, they might be looking at the same exact thing and wondering the exact same questions that I have, or they might have their own questions. I mean, if you have a question in that section and you need some help understanding it, then feel free to post that question. You know, I'll try to answer it if I can. And if I can't, then I'll let you know. I'll try to maybe see if I can find an answer that you're looking for. Um, but just know that I'm not like you know I'm not a guru in Pega. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Okay, I will do what I can, but there's only so much that I can do. So if everything, if you understand that, great. So, um, to uh, another thing that I want to mention is the fact that, I am currently going to be working on trying to get the Pega System Architect certification. This is one of the basic certifications that you should be going for if, you want to learn Pega. and you want to, and you're like a software developer that wants to learn everything that there is to learn about Pega. Okay. Um, if you don't really have a software development background, you're more business, analyzing, designing, and so on and so forth, then they do have a business architect you know, that is very parallel to what the system architect has. Okay, the system architect has more there. We'll be covering a lot more, um, but the business architect is fairly close in nature to what the system architect is. So there's only two different modules in the Pega Business Architect. That's different than the system architect. We will cover those two modules when the time comes. Um, but until then, um, there you go. So let's go ahead and get to the system architect section. As you can see, apparently I have 1 day, 7 hours, and 10 minutes. I don't really follow the time allotted there because everybody goes at their own pace. And I feel like you'd have to be a speed reader to go through all that. So, okay. So we are going to go into creating a child case. Okay, so child cases. Complex business transactions may require the creation of multiple cases. For example, an auto industry accident claim must be able to handle additional claims if the accident resulted in vehicle damage or physical injury. Based on this requirement, the accident claim case must be able to generate separate vehicle damage and body injury cases if necessary. In Pega Platform, you can model case relationships with a case hierarchy that contains top-level cases and child cases. An accident claim case is a top-level case, which is a case that does not have a parent case but can become a parent of other cases. Vehicle damage and bodily injury are child cases, which represent work that must be completed to resolve the parent. A parent case that creates multiple child cases allows for work to be processed in parallel, and different parties with different expense can handle each child case. Oh, a different expertise. Sorry. um, when processing child cases in parallel, the parent case needs to wait until a child case is completed before the parent case can be resolved. So, so you get into an accident, you file an accident claim. Then it goes into the two separate cases here. For one, for vehicle damage, they check out, what damage occurred to your, vehicle, car, truck, boat, what have you. Um, and then you also have the potential for body injury. Was there any body injury that occurred during an accident? Okay, maybe someone just kind of crashed into your parked car or something like that. So obviously, you might not need a body injury claim for yourself. Maybe for the other person that actually get into the accident, but not necessarily for yourself. So you don't necessarily need to worry about that. Um, maybe maybe you were part of an accident on which you were just injured, but not a vehicle. So like, God forbid you get hit by a car or something along those lines, right? You're walking down the sidewalk and suddenly a car, you know, swerves into you for some unknown reason, right? Um, so you wouldn't have any vehicle damage, but you would most definitely probably have some bodily injury to that, correct? So, um, so you file an accident claim, you do the body injury, and there you go, right? All of which, once, you can't complete, you can complete the vehicle damage, but until you complete the body injury claim, you can't fully complete the full accident claim because both of these are kind of required for the full accident claim. Okay, so because obviously, the damages and the payouts for both of these is, goes into a full total on the accident claim. Okay, okay, so child cases are beneficial in situations where you want to model work that different parties perform. Which, I mean, if you have vehicle inspectors, looking, mechanics and so on and so forth, looking at the vehicle and seeing whether or not it can be actually repaired, and then you have, doctors, nurses, so on and so forth, physical therapists for the body injury. So, you know, obviously you have different experts in those two areas that, you know, need to work differently. Obviously you're not going to have a doctor looking at the vehicle and going, now where does it hurt? It's like, obviously that doesn't really matter all that much, right? Um, So, you have different parties doing inspections and tests and so on and so forth to see, how, how much damage there was and, the costs on repair, whether to the car or to your body. So, model work that follows different reporting options. So, um, I mean, they're all kind of they're still kind of paperwork, but obviously they're different paperwork, kind of a thing. You're not going to take, medical forms that are basically saying this person injured his chest and give it to to a mechanic and say, okay, you know, where were where was the car injured? It's like, uh, where on the car would be the chest? You get what I'm saying? So, reporting options. Model work that follows different time frames. So while the vehicle might, you know, have, maybe the vehicle is totaled. So, the time frame is, well, there is no time frame because it's gone. There's no way to repair it or anything along those lines. So the claim would, pay out for the entire vehicle or whatever that they're going to pay out, right? Whereas body injury, if you get like seriously hurt to where you need physical therapy, for example, then the physical therapy could take weeks to months, depending on the injury, right? So, um, if not even longer than that, depending on the severity. So, um, so this might take, a lot longer to figure out everything, you know, what's going on there. Model work that is common for multiple case types. Okay, so um, you're not going to have like a child case that is saying um, something along the lines of um, you know um, wheelchair bodily injury or something like that, or wheelchair vehicle damage or anything along those lines, right? For example, I'm just putting this as an example here. Well, obviously um, the wheelchair is you know is a vehicle. Um, the you're not going to be able to put it as its own separate child case because then you'd have to apply it to everybody. Anybody that you know is everybody that's in the world. I mean, unless everybody is going around in wheelchairs, then then that not might not necessarily apply, right? So if you have like a really small um, subset of individuals that doesn't constitute everybody in the entire world, then obviously creating a specific child case that has to be applied to everybody in the entire world doesn't necessarily work very well. Okay, it's like saying if everybody in the entire world has brown eyes, um, and you create a child case that everybody has to complete, saying, "Hey, do you have blue eyes?" or something along those lines. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't necessarily work very well, um, because it's not typically the common. You want to, obviously there are going to be situations where you're going to need to address it, obviously, um, because you still want to make sure that you are inclusive for everybody that's out there. Okay, so don't think along the lines of, hey, we'll never have an injury from someone in a wheelchair. Okay, that's stupid thinking. Don't do that. Um, but um, you also have to, understand that while you know while there are quite a number of people that are in wheelchairs, when you compare it to the rest of the population, it is a small subsection of individuals that are out there. So it can't be applied to everybody. So um, so that's what they're kind of talking about there. So um, a customer service representative, adjuster, and a repair shop can handle the vehicle damage child case. Meanwhile, a medical claim specialist and certain medical providers can handle the body injury child case. Implementing a business process in a separate case type also allows you to reuse the case type as needed. For example, claims for both automobile and property insurance may involve a body injury claim. By implementing body injury claims as a separate case type, you can use the body injury case type with both automobile and property claims. Now, what you probably don't really want to do under an accident claim is have like the different vehicle damage claims. Like so under the accident claim you want to have um, you know, car, boat, house, um, airplane, what have you. Okay, you don't necessarily want to put that as child cases under the accident claim because obviously um, an accident isn't going to involve, you know, a, a car, boat, house, and plane, well, typically all together. If that happens, then, well, that's going to be an interesting one. But what you can do is you could create a child case under the vehicle damage that handles, is it a car? Is it a truck? Is it a boat? Is it an airplane? Or something along those lines, right? You might want to have just overall property damage, for house, condo, um, um, mobile home, RV, whatever, what have you, right? So, or just maybe it's just in general property damage, like maybe someone damaged your pool. You have those videos where people drive through the fence and plunge their car into the pool, right? Well, I mean that pool is damaged. Um, so um, just as a just as an idea. So check your knowledge with the following interaction. Which two use cases benefit from creation of child cases? Choose two. To apply for a job, an applicant must submit the job application. Then Human Resources reviews the application. As part of the review, HR runs a background check on the applicant, contacts the applicant's references, and verifies the applicant's education. These tasks can be completed in any order and are specific to the job application case type. Now, we don't really want that because HR is doing all the work. Okay. They're not giving it over to different individuals to handle different parts of that job application. Okay, so this one shouldn't, probably shouldn't work. This probably isn't one of the two. Just putting that out there for the time being. We'll come back to it later. Let's check out the other three. A travel agent allows customers to create an itinerary with separate reservations for flights, hotels, and vehicle rentals. A different vendor may fulfill each reservation, and more than one reservation of each type may be needed throughout the itinerary. That's going to be a good one because, they're talking about different vendors for flights, hotels, and vehicle rentals. So that works. You have a different child case, for flight, for hotel, and for vehicle rentals. Okay, and which can be then resolved for the entire itinerary. The itinerary is the parent, and then you have flights, hotels, and vehicle rentals as the child of said itinerary. So, so this is a good one, actually, in my opinion. We'll see. During a new hire onboarding, which covers seating assignment, hardware and software selection, and orientation session enrollment, new hires must also enroll in benefits. Benefits enrollment also occurs outside of the onboarding case during the annual open enrollment period. Okay, so um, this might be a good one to have for creation of child cases. Seating assignment, hardware and software selection, orientation session enrollment. These could be their own particular um, child case types. That can be handled by the respective individuals for those that are um, being covered, kind of thing. Um, and then you can also have benefits enrollment as also another child case. You know, that is kind of covered over a new hires onboarding. Now, obviously, benefits enrollment doesn't need to be required during the onboarding, as they state, but I mean, it can still be available to them at a later date. Okay, so last one here. To enroll in online classes, students must log into their student account, select their desired classes, and confirm their selections. Students cannot select classes that have conflicting schedules. This doesn't work as a child case because um, they're the only ones modifying the schedule. That's it. Okay. The the program is handling the conflicting schedules. There's no other person out there handling that. So this wouldn't necessarily work for a child case. So let's check the answer. Yep, we got it right. All right. So create the case type. To add a child case to a case type, create a create class automation step to a case lifecycle. When encountering a create class step, Pega platform creates an instance of the specified case type. DevStudio gives you additional configuration options for the create case step. The create case can either be a top-level case or child case. Additionally, multiple child cases can be created. To learn about these options, see creating contextual cases. Um, Data propagation. When creating a child case, you can also specify the information to copy from the parent case to the child case through a process known as propagation. You identify the fields in the parent case to copy from and copy the values to fields identified in the child case. This configuration is performed on the create case step. And obviously there should be a way to do it, the exact opposite way. You get information from the child case to go to the parent after said child case has been completed, or at least that should be available. um, but obviously we'll have to kind of see. Hold on a second, let me close down my phone here real quick. I don't really need to see that. Okay. Getting distracted. Sorry about that. If the data in the child case should represent the data at the time of the child case creation, data propagation is appropriate. For example, in the accident claim case, you can propagate data from about the accident from the parent case to the vehicle damage and bodily injury child cases because the information about the accident does not change. So, um, which is true. If the information should remain synchronized with the parent case, the data may change on the parent case, then it is more appropriate to reference the data in the parent case. For example, in the travel application, customers create an itinerary and reservations for flights, hotels, and vehicle rentals. Child cases handle each reservation. It is appropriate to reference the data from the parent case because customers may make changes to their travel itinerary. Data references require advanced configuration in DevStudio. So, so hopefully that's you know, um, understandable for everybody. Um, you get what's kind of going on. So when they do, they have the parent case here, for submitting the vehicle damage and body injury, if any, then it will go into the create vehicle damage case and create body injury case. Now, there should be an option in both of these, like vehicle damage and body injury to see whether or not um, there is a need to create those child cases. If there isn't a need for it, then it shouldn't be created. Okay, you shouldn't necessarily need to create an instance of that child case if there's nothing that has happened. Okay, if there is no body injury, then there shouldn't be a need to create the body injury case. You can basically have a flag there, or you should have some kind of boolean there that basically says, hey, was there bodily injury? No, and you should not need to create that child case. Okay, because that's just adding information that doesn't need to be there. Okay, you don't need to create that information. Okay, um, and it should be very simple to a person's eyes too. Like was there a was there body injury involved in this particular case? No, then they don't need to worry about it. They don't need to look at it. Hands are clean. Okay, same thing with the vehicle damage, so on and so forth. Right. So um, make sure that when you're creating these, to keep that in mind. Okay, you know, a a person involved in the accident shouldn't have to fill out information that does not apply. Okay, for example, if you get into a vehicle, damage claim kind of thing, and it basically says, how much damage did happen to your boat when it was a car crash? What are they going to say? Uh, yeah, I got my entire boat, you know, completely destroyed, and I don't have one. You get what I'm saying. That it doesn't really work. So, you know, if you are the developer working on this, And um, just remember to make sure that you have that, that you have that flag in there. Okay. If if of course business is okay with you doing that. Okay. Ask them. You know, hey, if there was no body injury in this, can we remove it? Or can we say, can we have a flag that will um, not have to call this child case type? Okay. Or if you're in business yourself, you know, keep that in mind. Remember that not everything needs, you know, a, you know, not every scenario needs some paperwork for it. Okay. Um, so don't don't worry too much about, you know, um, requiring everything to be filled out when it's only like a car damage or something along those lines. You get what I'm saying? So obviously, when you're out there in the corporate world and you're seeing this, you're dealing with a scenario in your own corner, you know, um, or okay, think of it this way. Um, Say you are um, in charge of a bakery or something like that, and they want to make, you know, um, they want to make a program to order ingredients or something like that. But the problem is that maybe they're the bakery, you have to order ingredients from different stores or something along those lines. Okay, for like different, like different products require different ingredients from other locations, right? So, you know, you start up the parent for ordering ingredients, but then you go, okay, well, you have a child case type for, croissants or something like that, and you have another case type for bagels or something like that. I'm just throwing out examples. I'm not a baker, so I don't, um, so, um, if you're just needing ingredients for, making croissants, then why would you need to go to the bagel child case to order ingredients? You don't need them. You get what I'm saying? You understand? So, um, that's basically what's kind of going on there, or that that's what I would make sure to consider. Okay, so we're all done here. Let's go on to the module quiz. We got about 15 more minutes left. I don't think I'm going to be able to get um, to the challenge today, but that's okay. Okay, so we only got about 3 questions here. So, okay. In an online banking application, a transaction inquiry case is created when a suspicious transaction is detected. If the customer verifies that the transaction was unauthorized, Pega platform creates a fraud investigation case, which can be spun off into investigations as appropriate. Details about the transaction are collected in the transaction inquiry case. Those details are populated in the fraud investigation case. Okay, so what 2 actions do you perform to achieve this configuration in the App Studio? Choose 2. So, configuration of transaction inquiry as a parent case and fraud investigation as a child case. Um, okay, I could see that. Configure fraud investigation as a parent case and transaction inquiry as a child case. No, because you're first seeing the transaction first, due to suspicious transaction. You're not seeing the fraud first before the transaction. You know what I'm saying? So This particular one would not work. Reference the transaction data from the parent class in the child case. Um, no, you don't necessarily need to do that. You probably want to propagate. So that's what you want to do. So there you go. Both are correct. Because um, so here's okay. These two words between each other. Okay. What I don't think they did very well is kind of explain these words very well in the previous topic. Let me go back to this a little bit later. Let me finish off the quiz because I want to go back to the topic and see if they kind of cover reference versus propagate. So we'll come back to that a little bit later. Okay. Um, Sorry about the misclick there. In an online shopping application, the primary case type purchase order has two child case types, payment and packaging. In processing purchase order case P011, the payment case is Pay 37 and the packaging case is Pack 56 are created. Which statement about the processing of P011, Pay 37, and Pack 56 is correct? Okay. Both Pay 37 and Pack 56 must be resolved before PO11 can be resolved. I mean, that's well, that might not necessarily, be required because maybe the payment will come after the fact. Maybe they go into like a payment plan or something like that. Okay, so payment might be a longer process, you know. So so a person might put in the order, put into a payment plan, and then the package gets packed up and shipped out, right? So the payment plan might be a long term. Um, so, but at the same time, the purchase order might not be officially complete per se, because the payment hasn't been completed itself. So right now, this is like the best answer at this moment in time, but let's check the other answers here. PO11 can be resolved when either Pay 37 or Pay 56 is resolved. Um, which isn't necessarily true, okay? Because um, so let's put it this way: if someone makes an order, does a purchase order, right? They pay for it. Are you gonna close out their account if the package hasn't been packaged up and sent out? Might be a little suspect there. You know, it's like like take Amazon for example. You pay Amazon for a new product. They get the money. They collect the money from you, and then they basically say, "Oh, thanks for the money. Goodbye." What are you gonna do? You're gonna be like, "Well, wait. Where's my package? Where's my product? You haven't sent it to me." So this probably not. um, PO11 must be resolved. The purchase order must be resolved before the payment and packaging is resolved. How are you supposed to do that? That doesn't really make much sense. So um, maybe after, sure, but not before. This is totally wrong. Pack 57 packaging must be resolved before pay 37 is resolved. Um, and obviously keywords here are the indicator here. Pack must be resolved before payment is resolved. Like I said, might not necessarily be correct because payment might be on a payment plan. So you want to give that. I mean, unless the person put it on layaway or something like that, where the product gets put onto like stores shelves to be saved for that person, and the person comes in, pays a little bit of money, leaves, comes back, pays a little bit of money, leaves, eventually pays off the product, and then takes it home. Okay. Um, so that's probably the only time that really um, comes into comes into question there. But so the three of these don't work. Okay, so it should be that first one there, which they're saying yes. Um, but again, it depends on what you consider as the purchase order. You know, um, you know, if the person selects a payment plan to pay for the product in question, you know, would you consider that, would you consider the purchase order complete upon verification of that payment plan being activated, or would you consider that purchase order completed at the time of the last payment? You know, um, you have to, when you're in business, obviously you'll probably want to consider that a little bit more. See what see what falls in that scope, kind of thing. Um, so yeah. All right, next one. In a mortgage application, the user creates a loan request. Before approving the loan request, the loan officer must receive the appraisal results. How can you configure the case types to reflect the loan request and appraisal relationship? Okay, so um, hmm, hmm. This one's a little difficult, I would imagine, to kind of consider. But let's go through their answers and see, what they say here. So, make a loan request a parent case type and appraisal's child case type. Okay. I mean that kind of makes sense. Mortgage application is basically a loan request, and then of course you have the appraisal as, you know, a necessary for whether that loan request can go through. Okay, so that might, this might be the best answer. Maybe. Let's see. Make mortgage a parent case type make loan request and appraisal child case types. Um, so here's the thing that I would almost say that this is probably one of the 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 correct choice, like the best choice out of it all, because I mean you're trying a mortgage application, right? Okay. Um, Now you could try to make a loan request, and it might not even fall upon the appraisal, right? You might not even need to do the appraisal because then, the loan request, they might like do a credit check and see like, oh yeah, you don't have proper credit to handle this loan request, so therefore we're just going to have to reject it outright. Okay. And if the loan request is rejected, then obviously the mortgage as a whole can be rejected. So you don't necessarily need an appraisal on it. But yet at the same time, if you're doing a loan request and they're saying, oh yeah, your credit score is fine, then obviously then you might need to um, verify that the appraisal is also fine as well. If their appraisal is terrible, um, then that might not necessarily work. So, um, and if it's terrible, then the mortgage gets rejected. So that's why I'm kind of leaning towards this one a little bit, but again, I'm not sure. This feels um, this could be a little problematic, and based off of what I can see. So, make appraisal a parent case type and loan request a child type. No, why would I want to do an appraisal as the top? That's like saying, okay, is the loan request completely, you know, uh, like, do an appraisal appraisal check, and you don't even need to necessarily worry about the loan or something like that. It's like, wait, what? How does this work? So the third one is definitely incorrect. Make both loan request and appraisal parent case types. Um, no, because you're still going to need to, um, use information from, say, the loan request to fill out everything that's in the appraisal. So this one doesn't really work either. Okay, so now I'm kind of at a crossroad here. Do I do the loan request as the parent case type and the appraisal as the child? Or do I make the loan request and appraisal as parallel? But they can't really work too well in parallel either, right? Because the loan officer must receive the appraisal results, you know, for the mortgage overall. So, um, so if I was to do like a chart, kind of thing, it would probably be mortgage to loan, and then loan to appraisal. Have a tree in a sense, with two different levels. Okay. Um, Loan request is a child to the mortgage, and the appraisal is a child to loan request. That's probably how I would probably do that. Um, because you might not necessarily need the appraisal for the loan request. Okay. Um, you know, um, because it's, before approving the loan request. Well, um, if they look at a person's credit score and see that, they don't qualify, then they might not necessarily need the appraisal results. So that's one of the reasons why this one doesn't really work very well. So um, it's good, but not great. So this one seems like it's the answer that they're looking for. So which it is. So um, as it is anyway, you could probably just completely ignore um, the mortgage application as a whole, because in a sense, it's just a loan request. It's just a loan request as a mortgage anyway. So, um, but okay, think of it this way: for a mortgage application, what is there? What are you asking for in a mortgage? You know, Essentially, it's just a loan request. At its basic level, right? Um, there's nothing else that kind of goes into a mortgage. Like you're not gonna have like different child cases. If I was to say, mortgage is the parent, what's all the child case types? Okay, there's really not anything there. You just have the loan request, and that's about it. You know, there's really not much else under that. You know, Now under the loan request, there could be other factors. Appraisal, credit check, work history, what have you, right? So, um, so yeah, that's why the first one is the better choice. But yeah, all right. So I finished that off. Yes, and result is complete 100%. Yay! Okay, now what I want to do, we had the propagate versus reference, right? Um, um, when creating the child case, you can also specify the information to copy from the parent case to your child case through a process known as propagation. You identify the fields in the parent case to copy from and copy the values to fields identified in the child case. This configuration is performed in the create case step. Um, okay. If the information should remain synchronized with the parent case, and the data may change on the parent case, then it is more appropriate to reference the data in the parent case. Okay, um, so think of it this way. Okay, um, you gather up all the information um, in the submission. You gather up all the information in the vehicle damage. You gather up all the information in the battery injury, and then you pass it on to the child's. Okay. If you don't care what happens, like if the information that happens in the vehicle damage and the information that happens in the body injury doesn't change in any way, um, like say um, a person states that you know they got a neck injury, but when a doctor checks it out, they didn't. So do you change that you know in the full submission, or do you kind of, you know, or do you keep the submission the same without any change? Now, obviously, the body injury will change and be, um, like, hey, this person claims that they got a neck injury, but we found no evidence of any kind of injury whatsoever, so therefore, you know, they're not going to get any money for said neck injury. For example, right? You know, you can definitely do that. You know, um, but what happens in the original submission? Do they basically say, hey, we're keeping this information in that they put this claim forward, but they're not getting any kind of money for that because they were wrong? Do you do it that way, or do you just go back to the original and say no evidence, we're going to remove it, or something along those lines? How do you handle that kind of situation, right? Um, so when you propagate, you are taking the information from the original submission and you're handing it to the child, but you're not expecting anything in return. Okay, you're basically saying, um, here's the information, take it. I don't need any additional information from you about what happens with that information. But for reference, it could be along the lines, okay, here's this information. Tell me what happens. Was there any change in that information or anything along those lines? Like, you know, initial report for the car accident is, you know, um, the front of the car got crumpled. Okay. Um, but they're not sure if it is completely totaled, right? Could you know, come back from a crumpled front end? More than likely not. But you know, um, could you consider that a totaled situation? Okay, so if it is completely totaled, then maybe you need to update the original information to that. So you might need more of a reference. So not only are you getting that information to the child, but the child is sending back any updated information back to the parent. Okay, that's what reference is all about. Okay, that's what they're talking about by, you know, referencing versus propagation. Okay, so when it comes to the module quiz here, let me go back to that particular question. Um, and an online banking application transaction inquiry case is created when a suspicious transaction is detected. If the visitor verifies that the transaction was unauthorized, the Pega platform creates a fraud investigation case, which can be spun off into investigations as appropriate. Details about the transaction are collected in the transaction inquiry case. Those details are populated in the fraud investigation case. Okay, so um, does the fraud investigation case need to modify anything within the transaction inquiry case? Okay, like is there new information or is there anything that is like incorrect in the transaction inquiry case that the fraud investigation case you know, might have come to light and therefore needs to change the transaction inquiry case? Most likely not. There'd probably be maybe a very rare instance where that might need to happen in some fashion or another. Um, so hence the reason why reference isn't necessary for this particular scenario. So you'd want to do a propagate, just handing the information over to the fraud, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Okay. There's not going to be any kind of return information from that child case to the parent case. In this particular example, I'm not saying that that's going to be the, um, uh, you know, there may come a time where you may need to do a reference, not a propagate. So just bear that in mind. Okay. Check with your, senior devs, your business, so on and so forth, to see what's needed in your particular scenario. So, all right, but that's it. I'm going over my 1 hour allotted time for Pega, so we're going to go ahead and close on down at this. Um, so that's it. And that's where we're going to go ahead and end it on this particular scenario. So we're going to go ahead and get to the um, um, we'll be tackling the uh, challenge afterwards, which is most likely going to be creating that child case, or having a scenario where we're going to be they're probably not going to give us um, the challenge is creating a child case. They're probably already going to have like a parent and a child already created for us. So what they're probably going to be doing is saying, hey, here, create the connection between the two. So just bear that in mind. So they're probably not going to tell us, to, make them completely. They're just going to basically say, let's show you how to connect between the two to be able to propagate information between the two. So that's it. I would definitely recommend, you know, um, looking in on, that process a little bit more because you're probably going to be using it a lot more out in the field. Um, so, so when you do the challenge and you create that instance, feel free to modify it more and more to handle what you need. So, but that's going to be it for this Pega session. Like I said, I want to thank everybody for watching on this, or if you're watching on YouTube, give a like and all that. That would be fantastic. Um, feel free to um, add any comments, um, questions, what have you, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the video. And that's it. So we're going to go ahead and stop the recording right now.